Good evening, everybody. You'll notice I'm in my white suit today because I attended an interfaith event where I was a speaker, and I'm going to publish what I spoke about in a different video. It was basically about being on time and about the eighth commandment, thou shalt not steal. Yesterday, we looked at the learning curve, spent a long time on it, and I hope that you've enjoyed watching that video. And today, we're going to look at the rising cost of energy from 2008 till now. And I've got the graph on another screen, and you can see basically we've got a number of different color lines, and we're going to look at what these lines are, and we're going to look at this line that's coming down last. And then I've made another spreadsheet for the first time just today to show you something else that needs to be looked at in the context of increasing prices and decreasing prices and so on. So let's get going. So this purple line, let me see if I can show you there. Right, the purple line at the bottom. Sorry, we just have to get this right because the line's near the bottom, so the screen is changing. Let me just see if I can get rid of that. Okay, so that purple line there starts down here. Is the joys of using technology. The purple line is what Eskom are charging the municipalities. And NERSA, the energy regulator, has allowed Eskom to increase prices. And you can see that the prices start at about 23 cents a kilowatt hour a year. And in 2022, they were at about 1 Rand and 30 cents, 1 Rand 50 cents, something like that over here. So they've gone up a lot in the last few years. Then this price here, the blue line, that sort of purple line, if you like, is what homeowners should be paying if their prices went up at the same rate, percentage rate, that the Eskom put their prices up. But you can see that the lines diverge. And the reason they diverge is because let's suppose that the price of electricity is 50 cents a kilowatt hour. And let's suppose that the city's charging 1 Rand a kilowatt hour and making 100% profit margin. So if I buy something for 50 cents and I sell it for 1 Rand, I make 100% profit margin. Now let's suppose that the utility put up the price by 100% from 50 cents to 1 Rand, then that increase, then the city put up their price by 100% from 1 Rand to 2 Rand. But the city, in actual fact, only needed to put up the price by 50% to match the price increase from the utility. So if the utility put up their price from 50 cents to 1 Rand, then the city only needed to put up the price from 1 Rand to 150. And that's why this line over here is diverging so fast, because of that. And this red line is the actual price increase, which is higher than that line because there's so many people who don't pay for electricity that the city of Cape Town actually has to put up the rates faster than what NERSA is allowing. So what the city is doing is they're saying, well, the average increase is X, but we need to put it up by more than X. Now, the electricity cost was about 50 cents a kilowatt hour from the municipality to the homeowner here in 2008. But just wait for that to disappear. You can see the dotted line. The dotted line is inflation. And most people's salaries go up by inflation, assuming that they don't find another job. Sometimes if you have a job, a good job, your salary might go up faster, but typically your salary goes up with inflation if you're lucky. And so therefore, what's happened from 2008 to 2022 and going forward is that the prices have gone up much faster than inflation. And while people are getting inflation increases, actually their living standards are dropping because their electricity costs are going up so quickly and their water costs are going up so quickly. And therefore their food costs and transport costs and all the other costs and other inflations are going up so quickly. Health costs, anything that's dependent, taxi costs, transport costs, whatever's dependent on electricity and water. And at the same time as this, in the past 12 years, 13 years, the availability of electricity and water has decreased. And this is what the real reason for the major unemployment crisis in South Africa. It's a shortage of electricity and water, even with these huge price increases. And every time the Eskom or the municipality, the utility or the municipality put up the price, they say, we have to put up the price. It's called cost reflectivity, okay, which is a misnomer. because they're trying to get to international cost reflectivity, and that's not the same in South Africa, which is a huge producer of coal and other resources. So we don't need to get to that point, but we do need to look after people. And then we've got this green line. You can see that in 2008, the cost per kilowatt hour for net metering for PV, photovoltaic panels, was 6.67 rand, and now it's come down to about 9 rand. So you can see to about 90 cents, about a rand. So you can see that we started off over here at 6.67 rand, and now we're under a rand over here. And so the point about this is that the figures are basically constant now, and they're not going down anymore from the point of view of net metering. So net metering means, let's suppose that I live in a house and I use 1,200 kilowatt hours a month. You'll see at the top here, I use 1,200 kilowatt hours a month. So let's suppose there are 30 days in a month. That means I use 40 kilowatt hours a day. And then in Cape Town, we have an average of 5 solar hours a day on average during the year. And therefore, if I divide 5 into 40, I get 8, which means I need an 8 kilowatt system. And in summer, I produce more, and in winter, I produce less. And in every country in the world where there's feed-in tariffs and net metering and so on, they will allow you to be negative in summer and positive in winter, which means that you're selling extra in summer, which means you have a negative bill, but the council doesn't pay you what they owe you, because in the winter months, you're going to produce less electricity and you're going to buy your surplus back from the grid. And we're going to look at something else called flattening the curve. And you've probably heard of that term, which is being used by the medical fraternity. But actually, flattening the curve comes from other scientific applications, such as renewable energy. And you can see that if I sell excess electricity during the day and buy it back, then in summer, I might be producing 8 kilowatt hours, and in winter, I might be producing only 2 kilowatt hours. And so I have excess saved up, banked in summer, which I then net off in winter. And on an annual basis, I should be zero. But in Cape Town and other cities, they want you to be zero a month. So in other words, let's suppose it's midsummer and you're making 8 kilowatt hours a day, okay, and you get paid for your excess production, but you only get paid for excess production until you hit zero, and then everything else you give to the council is free. The council won't pay you for that. And that's very unfair, because what's happening is I might be selling electricity to the council at 50 cents a kilowatt hour, and they're selling it to my neighbor who doesn't have renewable energy at 3 rand a kilowatt hour, and they're making 2 rand 50 a kilowatt hour. Whereas if they're buying from Eskom, they might be paying 1 rand 50 a kilowatt hour, okay, and selling it for 3 rand a kilowatt hour and making 1 rand 50. But if they're buying from me, they're actually making a much bigger profit, which disincentivizes people to put bigger systems in. Excuse me. So if I was a professional editor, I would edit that out, but I'm not. So I have advertised, if anybody wants to edit my videos, please come along, present yourselves. And now I want to show you the slide I made today. Let's go back here. Now, this bottom piece over here is the last slide I showed you. And if we go back, you'll see there it is in full scale. And here we've got this orange line, which I've added today. And the orange line is the approximation of the cost for battery-powered systems that make 95% of the electricity. So you'll see that in 2008, the cost was about 15 rand a kilowatt hour, and then that has come down to about 3 rand a kilowatt hour today. And where each of these lines cross, let's go to this line, where this line crosses that line, okay, so let's start with this line, this first crossing. So the green line crosses the red line, that's grid parity. And you can see that happened in about 2012. So you can see in 2012, if we had net metering and if we could sell and buy at the same price electricity, we would have hit cost reflectivity for solar PV in 2012. Then the next crossing is there in 2013, which is where the green line hits the purple line, and that is, or the blue purple line, which is where the actual rate should have been. The next line over here, which is in, just wait for that bar at the bottom to disappear, okay, In 2018, assuming net metering, we got to something called God parity. Okay, God parity is different to grid parity. Grid parity is where we're making electricity at the same price we're buying it from the retailer, which is the municipality in my case. God parity is where we're making electricity cheaper than Eskom are making it at the utility Eskom are making it at their power station. Okay, and this orange line at the top here is the approximate decrease of, because I don't have the actual figures every year, so I've done an approximation of what my system would have cost if I put the entire system that I've got today in 2008. It would have cost me 1.8 million rand. As it was, 12 years later, I spent 150,000, but I also spent 150,000 in 2008. So I don't have the precise numbers, but to get a reasonable number, I could say that if I made 95% of my electricity in 2008, it would have cost me 15 rand a kilowatt hour instead of 50 cents a kilowatt hour, including batteries. And now you can see that in 2022, we get to grid parity, including batteries, with the City of Cape Town's retail selling price, which means we don't need to buy electricity from the city anymore for 95% of our electricity, only for 5%. Okay, and we can buy that electricity at off-peak time between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. So we could actually negotiate with the city to say we'll buy electricity from you at a cheaper rate. We need to look at cross-subsidization and so on, which we'll see in other slides. But I just want to get you to see that in terms of the learning curve that we looked at in this slide, last night we spoke about the learning curve and how prices come down all the time. You can see that the renewable energy price without batteries has come down. That's the green line. The renewable energy price, including batteries, has come down also very rapidly. And we've hit grid parity. We still need to buy electricity from the council, but let's suppose the council charge even more exorbitant service fees. It might be time to perhaps buy a generator and actually generate our own power. But as you'll see in later slides, I maintain that people should be allowed to export because we want to cover all of our rooftops in PV. And maybe I only need 6 or 8 kilowatts to be off the grid, as it were, but maybe I've got 12 or 15 kilowatts roof space, which means I can make excess electricity to make electricity for industry, shops, shopping centers, and so on. And that's why I call myself a micro utility architect, because I understand all this stuff. And I'm hoping that you get the picture. And tomorrow we'll be looking at even more interesting stuff, which is going to be about the crises that affect us in the world today. So good night. I send you blessings. I send you health. And I send you the wisdom to be able to look in depth at what's happening around you to see that actually, although our electricity cost and water cost and food cost is going up and the availability is going down, and people are talking about famine, actually, in reality, that's not what's really happening underneath. So there'll be a presentation about axioms as well, which is a presentation that I'm doing to boards of directors. And if you want me to do that presentation, please give me a call. I look forward to working with you. Thank you very much and good night.